Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Dana and this is Delighted to DIY. If you like thrift flips and budget home decor DIYs, why don't you consider hitting that red subscribe button. For DIY number one, I started with this decorative cutting board that I got from my local thrift store for $1.29. I began by removing the stickers, which gave me a bit of a hassle, but I got them off with some perseverance and my heat gun. Then I removed the jute hanger and then gave the entire piece a scuff sand just to help the paint adhere a bit better. After cleaning off the piece to remove any of the excess dust that was still left behind, I went in with my homemade chalk paint. I used the color called Swiss Coffee by Behr and just make it into a chalk paint. I used a sponge brush and applied it all over the front and sides of the piece. I gave it 3 coats, letting it dry each time in between. Once I was happy with the coverage and the paint was fully dry, I made a printable on my computer and printed it out on an inkjet printer and on the Hippo water slide decal papers. I then followed the instructions listed on the back of the package and applied the decal to the bottom part of my cutting board. When the decal was dry, I knew I wanted to embellish the piece, and I began by making a bow with some of this gingham ribbon that I got from Dollartree. I just made a simple shoelace bow by making 2 loops, crossing them over, and pulling one through the opening in the middle. Then I just adjust the bow to the size that I want in my hands, just kind of pulling and tugging. Then I cut off the bow from the roll with my scissors, and that was it. I kind of played around with the placement, whether I wanted it at the neck or down further. I decided the neck. Then for my wording, I thought that I was going to use these rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree. However, they were giving me trouble, so I'm just showing that even if you mess up in a project, usually there is some other way to fix it. So I didn't end up going with these because I just wasn't happy with it. The way it was placed. So I decided to change it up and used one of these wooden garden stakes from Dollarama. I cut it down till it was just a little bit larger than the board. Then I used the cherry color furniture touch-up marker stains from Dollar Tree that you can get, and I stained the piece of wood. I did the front, sides, and ends. I didn't bother about the back because it was going to be covered by the board. However, actually, I did a little bit at the ends where it was still sticking over on the back. That was all I did on the back. I didn't have to do the whole thing. Then I took my pencil and sketched out my word. I'm going to be writing harvest onto the board. So I just started with the V and worked my way out on the ends so that it was centered. I did begin using a paint marker, but it wasn't as bright as I wanted it to be. So I then went in with paint and a small paintbrush, and I hand painted the letters onto the wooden board. This worked. However, when I looked at it a couple days later, the stain from the marker did seep through the paint. It's probably because it is white paint. You probably wouldn't have trouble if you were using any other color. Maybe a coat of Mod Podge before the paint would help seal it so that it doesn't come through. Otherwise, stickers or decals would work to put your lettering on. Then I just adhered the sign on with my hot glue. I adhered the bow on with some hot glue. Then I just retied a hanger with some of my jute rope from Dollarama, and that was it for this project. I hope you like this flip. You'll have to let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like watching thrift flips and budget home decor DIYs, why don't you consider hitting that red subscribe button? And if you click the bell and select all, YouTube should notify you every time I upload a new video. For DIY number 2, I'm starting with a basket that I got for free off of a Facebook Buy Nothing group. Then I took my burnt orange chalk paint by Craftsmart and just a cheap brush from Dollar Tree, and I'm just kind of heavily dry brushing over all of the basket just to kind of give it a more of an orange appearance because of course we're going to be making a pumpkin. Then I took some of this beaded garland from Dollar Tree. It was in their fall section, and am making kind of a wreath form to fit over it. I didn't want it to go all the way down, so I made it just slightly smaller than the widest part of the basket so that way it would stay on without needing to be glued on. Then with a stick that I got from my backyard, I cut a stem using my miter shears, but garden shears I'm sure would work just as well. I used the hot glue to adhere this into the center of the basket, then just clipped off with scissors some excess leaves that I have in my stash. I added some pine cones that I got from Dollartree as well. I just glued a couple on to the sides just where I thought they looked nice. I used my hot glue along the bottom edge of the leaf to adhere it on to the side of the stem. I just played around with where, again, I thought it would look best. I always do that, usually just kind of dry fit things. Then once I like where it is, that's when I'll add the hot glue. So here I am with the second leaf, just deciding where to put it, using a little line of hot glue along the bottom edge of the leaf, sticking it in where I wanted. And unfortunately, my camera cut off, but I used one of these paper roses, again, from Dollartree, and just adhered it on with some hot glue. And that was it for flip number 2. For flip number 3, I'm starting with this sweet basket that I got for $2 from my local thrift store, and I just begun by sanding off the decal on the front. Today's video is part of an open playlist. It's part of the Third Thursday Thrift Flip playlist, hosted by 2 great gals. We have Elizabeth from the Southern G Moore Girls and Tammy from the Rusted Willow. I will leave a link to both their channels in my description box below, as well as a link to the playlist. Hopefully you check them all out, as I'm sure there will be lots of great inspiration. After removing the decal on the front with my sanding block, I wiped down the basket and gave it a good clean. Next, I'm going in with my homemade chalk paint and just a cheap brush from Dollar Tree and dry brushing all over the center portion of the basket. I'm giving it a little bit more heavily of a coat along the edges, the top and bottom edges, and then I also went along the bottom just to clean it up a bit where there was some staining from the previous owner, I'm assuming, that I couldn't get off with cleaning. So now it looks kind of more fresh and new and ready for its new home. On my computer, I made another decal and printed it out on my Hippo water slide decal papers. I'm very much enjoying using them. I will leave a link in my description box below where you can find them if you're interested in trying them out for yourself. I applied them according to the instructions, and that was it. I styled this piece with different pumpkins that I had from Dollar Tree and Walmart. If you're enjoying this video and you like what I'm showing you, why don't you give this video a big thumbs up? It really helps to support my channel. For this last thrift flip, I'm starting with this picture frame that I got for $2, and I believe it was 75% off on the day I went as well, that I got from my local thrift store. I began by removing all the contents, including the glass, out of the frame. Then I just pushed down the back holder thingies, sorry, to just make it easier to paint. I went in with Tilled Soil by Martha Stewart's vintage Decor chalk paint. I gave the entire frame a good coat. While the paint dried on the frame, I began working on the glass. I was able to find some of this buffalo check vinyl that Dollar Tree has been carrying. If you find it, grab it, because I know it's going to go fast. I know it's already gone at my store and I didn't even take it all. Anyways, I traced out the glass onto the backing of it, cut it out, and begun laying a little bit. So I exposed a bit of the vinyl and then just slowly worked my way along the piece of glass, laying the vinyl down and just rubbing it to make sure it was smooth. I did this all the way along the piece of glass, covering the entire piece with the vinyl, then just used a scraper to make sure that everything was smooth. After the paint had dried on the frame, I realized it was a little too light for my liking, so I just took some burnt umber acrylic paint from Dollar Tree and did a heavy dry brushing around the frame. When that was dry, I replaced the glass and just the back piece that had the hangers for the frame. I replaced those back into the frame, then took some of these burlap leaves that came in a 5-pack from Dollar Tree. I believe they had maple ones like these, and I believe they had oak-shaped leaves as well. I took 3 and just spaced them out as evenly as possible, just eyeballing it and adhering them on to the buffalo check pattern with my hot glue. I just used little dots of hot glue because I didn't really want any of it to seep through. So minimal amounts of glue here is better. Then with one of these box signs from Dollar Tree, I took it apart and used my box cutter to cut off all the edge pieces because all we need is the wording part, so the front part of those signs. And we are going to use it as our wording on the piece because I felt it was a little too plain. However, if you like it with just the leaves, by all means, you could stop at that point. I had to go a little further, of course. So once I got the front removed from the edges, I sanded down the sides just to make it nice and smooth and get any of the rough papers. I played around with where I wanted to place it. Now I'm thinking I do like it in the middle of the leaves, but I did end up adhering it with my hot glue to the bottom. And that was it for flip number 4. It's kind of more of a neutral piece, but still has the fall colors from the sign. I really like how it turned out. If you like these, it'd be awesome if you gave it a thumbs up. And here's some more videos if you want to keep watching. As always, thanks for watching, and if you want to see more of this content, like more DIYs and thrift flips, why don't you consider hitting that big red subscribe button to be notified anytime I upload a new video. Bye!